for me to introduce Danny Katch. My name is Dave Zyron. Oh, thank you. I'm so honored that that Haymarket Books, of all the binders full of men they have, chose me to introduce Danny and his book. Now, I have a very easy job. I'm going to talk a little bit about how great Danny is, about all the wonderful activism he does, about all the terrific contributions he's made to building a strong left in this country, and then I'm going to say some things that are true. And just kidding. Yeah, no respect at all. No, and I'm going to speak seriously, though, about how amazing this book is, America's Got Democracy. And in less than 3 weeks, it's election season here in the United States. And this book is so desperately needed right now. I mean, if you look at who could be president of this country, you either have Mitt Romney. Woo, my goodness. Not the crowd I expected. A man who really does look like the sort of person who fired your dad. And you've got Barack Obama, who, as of a week ago, it was an open question whether or not the man had a pulse. And all you had to really do was look at the last debate to see what a thin gruel of politics it is we're facing this election season. I mean, look at the two main talking points out of the debate. The first was whether or not Mitt Romney committed a gaffe by talking about what Obama said after the attack on the consulate in Benghazi. Notice, not a debate about whether or not the United States should have been in Libya in the first place, but about whether a gaffe was committed and how Romney characterized Obama's response. And the second talking point from the debate, of course, binders full of women. Binders full of women. Binders full of women, which really just sounds like probably the worst song Jay-Z ever recorded. For some reason, it's what is stuck afterwards. And it's so important that we have some kind of political alternative to this. It's so important that this electoral process in this country be mocked, and be mocked mercilessly. It is needed for our collective sanity to have the electoral process in this country mocked so terribly. Now, don't get me wrong. There are political comedians out there, of course. We know who they are. There's Jon Stewart. There's Stephen Colbert. There's the first 10 minutes of Saturday Night Live. But as at times funny these folks are, they're also incredibly safe. They're the kind of people who could make a joke skewering the administration or skewering the Occupy movement. That's right. They're the kind of people who could say things that criticize pro-life, or I should say anti-choice bigots, but in the same segment, they could say something actually mocking the people who are fighting to ensure that women have reproductive rights and health care in this country. And they're also the kind of people who are just as comfortable telling a joke in a stand-up setting as they are interviewing people in positions of power and doing their best to kiss their ass and make them as absolutely as comfortable as possible. And what is so desperately needed are dangerous people who mock people in power in this country. We need dangerous comedians in this country, and we used to have them. I mean, we used to have people like George Carlin. We used to have people like Bill Hicks. And if you don't know Bill Hicks, he's the person who said, every time a politician says we need to tighten our belts, all I can think of is, where's their neck? Then I'll start tightening it. And we used to have people like Florence Kennedy. And if you've never heard of Florence Kennedy, she was an African-American woman over the age of 60 who in the early 70s would get up on a stage with a microphone and say things like, if men could get pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament in the Catholic Church. Now, the thing that George Carlin, Bill Hicks, and Florence Kennedy all have in common is that they're all dead. And the thing that Danny has going for him is that he's alive. And that's so incredibly important as a starting point for making fun of the 2012 elections. George Carlin is not walking through that door, but Danny Katch is, and that's so important. And it's especially so important now who can have someone to talk about this election season, because if you take a step back from the day-to-day polling, from the sound bites, from the snippy comments back and forth from the campaigns, you're looking at a world in deep crisis. And you know what? For people in the Middle East right now, it really doesn't matter whether it's Democratic or Republican drones raining death on their villages and homes. If you are fighting for justice from Bahrain to Greece, it really doesn't matter if the weapons that are being used to put down your rebellion were signed off by a Democratic or Republican administration. And if you're one of the 2 million people behind bars in the United States, it really doesn't matter whether a Republican or a Democrat wakes up every morning in the White House. That's the reality that needs to be exposed. But if all we do is protest that reality and rage against that reality, we're going to go insane. We're going to go crazy. At times you actually have to laugh about it. And laughter is not just the best medicine, sometimes it's the best way to expose just how sick and corrupt this system is. And because of that, I am so incredibly proud to introduce the book, America's Got Democracy, the making of the world's longest running reality show, and to introduce its author, the one, the only, Danny Katch.
Wow, thank you. Really psyched, this is awesome. I actually wanted to talk in the beginning tonight, though, not about my book, but about Mitt Romney's book. No Apology. That's the name of Mitt Romney's book. It's called No Apology. Can you imagine writing a book and calling it No Apology? That's basically like, I have a 3-year-old kid, and I'm pretty sure that's the letter. If she could name a book right now, it would either be Give It Back, I'm Gonna Bite You, or I'm Not Sorry, you know, No Apology. That's sort of the developmental level that Mitt Romney with his book. I mean, can you really combine any more dickishness into 2 words? Like, I don't know, maybe if Trump is one of them, but other than that, that's not even fair. I mean, he may as well just called it, like, asshole. And to be fair, though, he's not actually talking about himself, right? The subtitle of the book is No Apology, The Case for American Greatness. So he's not arrogant, he's patriotic, okay? And we all know that this country has nothing to apologize for, right? Never. And as proof, he has this quote in the first chapter from Shimon Peres, Israel's former prime minister. There's something along the lines of like, America's so great because it's the only country in the world that's never taken land from another country in war. So first of all, it's like, that guy's got some issues, right? Like, that's a big Israeli value, like not taking other people's land. But, you know, it's like winning like the Royal Saudi Medal for feminism. Like the Nobel Prize going to Barack Obama when he's bombing Afghanistan. Oh wait, but the other point too is that, I mean, how could this country exist if it hadn't taken land, like taken other people's land and it defeated? Where would we be standing? I mean, Native Americans, Mexico, England, right? We did take land from England for this country to exist. It's like there's this Tea Party history of the world going around. It's like, you know, and on the 6th day, God created the Constitution. So the book's really about, it's about America, you know what I mean? It's the case for American greatness. So you might think on the cover, it might put, I don't know, Ben Franklin or Lady Liberty, you know, or even just a small business owner or a soldier. It's Mitt Romney on the cover. Mitt is the case for American greatness, actually. Anyway, so let me just read the very beginning of No Apology. Chapter 1, The Pursuit of the Difficult. I hate to weed. Those were the first 4 words of Mitt Romney's book. I hate to weed. I hate to weed. I've hated it ever since my father put me to work weeding the garden at our home in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. It was planted with zinnias, snapdragons, and petunias, none of which seemed to grow as heartily as the weeds. After what seemed like hours of work, time out, it seemed like hours of work, meaning it wasn't actually hours of work. After what seemed like hours of work, I never could see much progress, and I complained to my dad. Mitt, he would reply, the pursuit of the difficult makes men strong. So, about Willard Mitt Romney is the fact that when the guy has a book and he wants to start it off with some tale of hardship, like overcoming an obstacle, and he can't come up with anything more than his dad made him do chores at their enormous house in Michigan. But the point that he goes on to make, and I do not recommend that you read this book, but the point he goes on to make in the first chapter, his whole thing is like, America's got all these problems, of course they're all Obama's fault, you know, the economy and China, Russia is everywhere in this chapter. He is so afraid of Russia. The jihadists, as he calls them, right? And he talks about how he knows that America can overcome these problems, but he's actually a little bit worried that that we will. And this is how he puts it at the end of the same chapter that he talked about, you know, hating the weed. He says, "Love the weed." We have been accustomed to being the world's leading nation for so long, enjoying the freedom, security, and prosperity that comes with that leadership, that we've tended to avoid the hard work that overcoming challenges requires. And this actually is the theme of his book, that unlike Mitt, people in this room have kind of had it easy in life. You know what I mean? Like, we've been a little spoiled, and he's not sure if, like, you know, there's a whole lot of us out there, I don't know, maybe 47% of us, that he's just not sure, really, you know, have what it takes to do the hard work. I mean, look, I didn't, you know, most of us didn't have a dad that made us weed, even though he owned a car company and totally could have afforded to pay a poor person to, like, do that work. You know what I mean? That puts a stamp on you. So, you know, I mean, look, for some of us, for Mitt, it was weeding. I think he's talking about for some of us, it may mean giving up our pensions. You know what I mean? Going off and killing people and getting killed in wars that don't make any sense. For him, it was weeding. It's everybody has their own part to play, but we better dig deep, you know? That's really what this book's about. Yeah, so Mitt Romney is like a very ridiculous candidate. He's almost like an ironic Republican. Like if people are coming up with a spoof, you know what I mean? Like it would be Mitt Romney. Like in like all those dumb Adam Sandler movies, Mitt Romney is like the mean, rich jerk who doesn't want to have any fun. Like, I mean, there used to be this group, these protesters, these parodies called Billionaires for Bush, and they would like go around. People would like the whole time we all remember. They would like wear tuxedos and evening gowns and go to protests, like drinking fake champagne, and be like, ha ha ha! It was great. But you don't. No one's doing Billionaires for Romney because it's just like he's a spoof of himself, right? Like it's not even so. You know, the hair and the I enjoy firing people. And there's one. The other ridiculous thing about Mitt Romney is that he's tied. Is that he might actually become president, right? That's a pretty ridiculous thing. And I guess that gets into what I was writing this book about. To me, this is democracy in America in a nutshell, right? 4 years ago, people vote for Barack Obama. Banks have like destroyed the country. People are mad. They want change. You know, what happens? Well, depending on your point of view, Obama either sells out to the banks, or maybe he was too weak or too nice, whatever you want to call it, right? He fails, okay? And whether you're sympathetic to him or not. And so people are mad, and then who do we get? Like, what's our option to replace the guy who failed to take on the banks? Banky McBanker himself, right? The guy who runs Bain Capital. Or Banky McBanker is very ethnic and Irish for Mitt Romney. So, Bankford Bankiston III. You know, like that's who we get to elect. And this is what the stark choice is supposed to be. The replacing. I use that word, that phrase on purpose. Stark choice. That's been the phrase of the year. Going back to March, when Romney first got nominated, it was like, oh, there's going to be a stark choice this year. And then when he chose Paul Ryan, who wants to like privatize Medicare, it's like, wow, there's really a stark choice of different visions of government. And then, you know, after every debate, you'll hear the candidates really offer a stark choice, you know, between. So the word stark means obvious, right? And the way you can tell when something's obvious is that people don't have to keep repeating to you the obvious thing. You know, like, I'm just thinking, like, on the eve of the Civil War, I don't think a lot of people had to be like, have you noticed there's a stark difference going on north and like the south? Like, I think it wasn't necessary. I don't think in like the Lincoln-Douglas debates that Abraham Lincoln had to like take pains to be like, all right, let me try to explain this for the last time. See, this guy is for slavery. Right? Like, slavery, like you can own, and I'm against it. There's a very stark, are you seeing? By the way, technically, yes, I know Lincoln wasn't actually against also. He didn't want slavery to expand. The problem with doing comedy for a left-wing audience, like you gotta footnote. I know, Lincoln, it's over the course of but you gotta also give him, but Lincoln did take a stand on the issue, right? It was fairly significant. It caused a civil war to happen, right? It was a stand. If Lincoln was like the Democrats today, he obviously wasn't a Democrat then, but if he was like a modern Democrat, if he took like the Obama approach, it would be like, we of course we need slavery to grow our economy, you know, but we can do that in a way that doesn't infringe on our freedoms, you know, like that would be his approach to it. So, and for folks who are here, of course, I know there's major differences between Romney and Obama. There are, you know, there's just not nearly enough of them, given who Romney is and the crazy, dire situation that we face on any number of fronts. So, just to take one fairly serious issue. The destruction of life as we know it. Right? This is sort of an issue that's going on with global warming and stuff like that. And if you remember, 4 years ago when Sarah Palin was like, drill, baby, drill, and most people were like, she's crazy. Like, everyone knows we need green jobs, you know. And at the debate last time when Romney was like, we need more drilling, and Obama was like, yes, I'm totally drilling. What are you talking about? So like, that's just a given now. I mean, it's crazy. So you really have a situation with this incredibly important issue where the stark choice between the Republicans and the Democrats isn't the different things they're going to do about it. It's really just the different ways they say they're not going to do anything about it. I mean, the Republicans are like, a lot of them are still just doing the total climate change denial thing. You know, they're just like, it's conspiracy, man. Like, whatever. Scientists. What do they know about the science? You know, like, that's their thing. And then, but the Democrats totally have a different approach. They're like, no, climate change is real. And it's serious, okay? And we're not going to do anything about it. But somebody really should. I mean, it's actually very scary. You know what I mean? But maybe we should write a letter? I don't know. Like, that's basically the different approach that they have. Even the way we talk about it, global warming, that's a terrible way. This is like floods. We're talking about mass distinctions of species and typhoons and floods, and we call it warm? We don't even call it hotting or burning. Like that we're not prepared. You know, that's just like climate change. It's like we're just going to adjust the thermostat on the planet a little bit. So yeah, it's not like we call it like planetary death storm or ecology of mass destruction. Like these are things that look at the Bible. The Bible talks about floods. It uses scary language to get people's attention. Fire and brimstone and hell. There's nothing in the Bible that's like God told the sinners he would punish them by making the planet warm. And I will make it moist too, because the humidity is really the wind chill will be terrible. All right, another issue, fairly important, right? War. You know, it's a big deal, right? So then again, here the stark choice here is that Obama spends more money on the military than any president ever has. And Romney thinks that is way too low. Like, that's basically, like, that's what he's hitting Obama on, right? And just to give a sense of how much money we're spending on the military right now, like, it's $1 trillion, that doesn't mean anything to any, like, what does $1 trillion mean? Okay, so you know how Obama and Romney are both talking about how, like, gas is $4 a gallon, which is really expensive, right? And for them, that's why we need to, it's so expensive we should kill the planet. I mean, that's one, right? But you know how much money the military spends for every single gallon of fuel that goes into Afghanistan? $400 for all the planes and the helicopters and the Humvees. Every single gallon of fuel, they're spending $400. Like, I know soldiers like carpool and stuff. And I like doing one person commute into Kandahar and stuff like that. But like that is a lot. There's a lot of money. And so you know, Obama's saying we should get out of Afghanistan in 2 more years. And Romney's main position on Afghanistan is just that we should win, right? Which is his position on everything in terms of foreign policy. We should win. We should be strong. Diplomats shouldn't be killed. That's what I'm for, right? He's sort of like, if you ever people here listen to sports talk radio at all, like anybody, good, not right. You listen to sports talk radio, you're always going to get people who call in just so pissed that their team lost. Like, I can't believe it. Like, what were they doing? Right. You know the other team was trying to win too, right? Like, and I just feel like that's Romney's approach. Like, we're gonna win, you know, like the way they talk about China or whatever. Like usually Romney is like all about rugged individualism and like competition and capitalism. But as soon as he comes to China, it's like, Mom, China's cheating. Like, it's not fair. And it's just whatever. Okay, getting back to the war. This is how bad the Afghanistan war has gotten. There was a story in the Times just this week where, like, it's in the first, like, the opening paragraph is all about just how the Afghan army, the thing that the U.S. is building to fight the Taliban, how it's filled with Taliban, right? And how it's so easy for Taliban fighters to get into the Afghan army that there's people who have gotten into the army even though, like, when they first signed up to get recruited, the guy, like, looked at their cell phone and it had a Taliban ringtone. Like, and they're like, okay. Which definitely begs the question of what is the Taliban ringtone? Sure. Like 80s metal anthem, you know, like, Taliban! There's something about the name Taliban. Like, if it wasn't for 9/11 and the war started, there would be a band out there like Taliban. Like, it's just, I don't know. You had to be in the 80s to hear it. But it's like, just how much of a nightmare must it be to be in the Afghan army, right? Like, you're like some poor villager, and it's the only paying job, and you're fighting. You're gonna march on like a Taliban stronghold, and like you're like really scared, and like you can only count on the people around you. And then suddenly, like, the guy next to you's phone rings, and it's like, Taliban! He's like just trying to like turn it off. Like, that's terrible. That's not camaraderie. Anyways, so yeah, so I wrote this book. I mean, I found out after you write a book that people ask you what it's about, which I was completely unprepared for. I'm so not Mitt Romney that I can't even talk to people about my book without apologizing. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what it's like. Yeah. So for tonight, I figured I should probably figure out a way to describe what the book's about, and it's still not a very good description. But I guess I would say that it's weird. You write about, I don't know what it's totally about, but if, in one sense, I guess I would say it's about living in this very crazy society where we're destroying the planet, we have wars that don't make sense, and massive inequality, and like record numbers of people being thrown in jail, all of which is either for the benefit or security of like a very small, you know, number of people in this society, right? And then having these elections every couple of years, which not only like do nothing to change any of that stuff I just mentioned, but it's sort of like all about making us feel like we are the ones getting to decide all this stuff, none of which ever comes up in any of these elections, right? Or if it doesn't make us feel like it, like at least some swing state undecided voter, right? Like we talk about like a couple of blue-collar dudes in Ohio, like they're the masters of the universe. Like everything depends on them, which begs the question of why it sucks so much right now to be a blue-collar dude in Ohio. But it makes it sound like these guys are just on their phones all day, just playing the campaigns against each other. Like, hey, Barack, man, yeah. You gonna rebuild my factory? That's cool, but just talk to Mitt. It's gonna give me lifetime employment with Bain. He's gonna set me up in the Caymans with a nice, you know, account. So what are you gonna do for me? Like, all right, you know, talk to you later. That's sort of the way they make it. You know, they make out these undecided voters be. It's not, you know, my book's kind of about no. That's not really what the powerful 1% is in this country, right? It's a very different one. And so yeah, like Dave was saying before, to me the book's about trying to be like what this world is really, what elections have to do with how things really happen, and much more importantly, to make a lot of jokes about it. I very much agree. I think that it's like people who are the powerful people who run this country and really this world, they're very powerful, and some of them individually are probably very smart, but as a group, they are really dumb. They are making really dumb decisions, and they need not only to be opposed and to organize, but they need to be made fun of every day, as much as possible. So yeah, I got the book here. I'm going to be signing it. I need people to buy it. I need people to read it. I need people to explain to other people what an ebook is. I can't actually do that. And yeah, promote it and review it, and just, you know, like, yeah, I think it's really good. So Jen's going to come up and just talk a little more about this party, what it's all about. Besides me, it's all about me. There's other things. And I'll be buying books.